Hey everyone, my name is Melody. Welcome to my channel where we talk about responsible consumerism by the way of project pans, no buys, and tips on how you can be the most ethical consumer you can be. Today I am going to talk about the 3 eyeshadow palettes I used for the last 2 weeks. I am rotating my way through my eyeshadow palettes 3 at a time for 2 weeks because I am trying to A, appreciate what I have, and B, discern if it's something I want to keep in my collection. For the past 2 weeks I have been using the Colourpop Baroque palette, it's what I have on my eyes today, the BareMinerals Gen Nudes Rose eyeshadow palette, and the Tartelette Toasted eyeshadow palette. I definitely used the Tartelette Toasted palette the most, and I really do like this palette. As I've said many times before on my channel, I have decluttered all my other Tarte palettes, but this one I recently got, and I don't plan on decluttering it anytime soon. It is definitely very warm, and you can get some really nice, really warm looks from it. You can also get some nice neutral looks from it, and I found myself tending to go more for the neutral looks. So I would say, because I have other palettes in my collection that I prefer for neutral looks, and I was only doing that with this one because the other palettes I have in these 2 weeks are really cool toned, this probably wouldn't be the one I'd go for typically for my neutral looks. I just happened to do that this time around with the combination of palettes I had. But what it's good for, A, that you can get those neutral looks from it, and B, when you do want a really, really warm look, this is great. So I think when I have it in the fall coming up, I will get a lot of really good use out of this because this is the color palette I like to go to in the fall. The Baroque Colourpop palette, it's fun, but I don't need it. I got it because when I do go for color, it does tend to be really dark blue. It's just a lot more cool and kind of gray slatey than I expected. I thought it was going to be a little bit more navy. And I would say that this Stunner shade is navy. And you know, I should try that all over the lid. I didn't try that this time around. So I do actually have one more day left in my 2-week rotation. Maybe I'll try to do that tomorrow. I'll post a picture if I did do that and see if maybe it helps me grow a little bit more appreciation for this palette. But as of right now, I feel like I could definitely part with it and not be too sad, except for the packaging is so beautiful. And that's the other thing that drew me into buying this. Anyway, fun palette, not something essential to my collection though. Okay, so this Gen Nude Rose palette, I love. It's so pretty. It's a nice cool tone neutral palette. There's not a ton that you can do with it. It serves me well. I definitely love this palette, will hang on to it, and continue to get good use out of it. I don't grab for it a ton in my collection. That's just because I have so many that there's very few that I grab for a ton. In addition to the eyeshadow palettes, I also worked my way through 3 blushes in my collection for the 2 weeks. And I only have one more, actually I think 2 more rounds of blushes that I can do this with. And then I will just go to use whatever blush I want while I continue this project for my eyeshadow palettes. But this time around I had the Glossier Cloud Paint in Dusk, the Tarte Amazonian Clay in Risque, and the Cover FX Duo Monochromatic Blush Duo in Warm Honey. I made sure to choose this blush along with the Toasted palette because I like that color combination. It's a great warm look. And this blush is one of my favorites. I got it in an effort to dupe Benefit's Dallas because Benefit isn't cruelty free, so I wanted to find the cruelty free version of it. And this is a little bit more warm than Dallas, but somewhat similar. But what I realized today while I was putting on my blush is that this Risque is actually very similar to Dallas. It's a little bit lighter than Dallas, but it has a very similar feel. And I really fell in love with this blush over these last 2 weeks. You do have to use a little bit of a lighter hand with it compared to like Tarte Exposed, that one you have to really dig in there and build it up. But this one, I found that once I trained myself to go with a lighter hand, that it was a really great blush. I like it a lot, and it might be in the running for if I could only keep one blush. That says a lot. And this Glossier Cloud Paint, this is my favorite color. I only have 2 of these, but this is definitely my favorite color because I love a good nude blush. And this is a great solid blush. I do tend to prefer pressed powder blushes because I just feel like I have a little bit more control when I use liquid and cream. If it's like a thicker cream, it's not so bad, but when I use liquid or like a light fluffy whipped cream, I tend to like have blush all the way down to here when I apply it. I'm just not as good at it. But this color is absolutely amazing. So coming up for the next 2 weeks, I am going to be working my way through the Dose of Colors Friendcation palette, the Anastasia Beverly Hills Sultry palette. I chose this one specifically for this time frame because it is such a romantic palette and Valentine's Day is coming up. And the Charlotte Tilbury Charlotte Darling palette. For the 3 blushes, I have my other Glossier Cloud Paint, and this is in the shade Storm. This I love to pair with my Anastasia palette, my sultry palette. I have the Cover FX Monochromatic Blush Duo in Pink Dahlia. And to round it out with a warm shade, I have this Phase Zero Making Moves blush. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. I appreciate the time you spent with me. I appreciate you. What did you think of these palettes? Do you own any of these palettes? What are your opinions? Do you have a palette project you're working on right now? I know a lot of people start palette projects at the beginning of the year, and so I would love to hear about that if you're doing it, or if you have any plans for any upcoming projects. I'm guessing I have about 7 more rotations of palettes. So it's, no, that can't be. Well, whatever. I probably have about 7 more rotations of palettes to work through, 3 at a time for 2 weeks each. And then I'm going to be moving on to another project. So I have a few in mind that I might do, but I would love to hear any ideas that you guys have for palette projects. And by palette project, I just mean a way to intentionally use palettes and a way to rotate through them all. So I would love to hear any ideas that you have, and I hope you'll come back for new content on Saturdays, Tuesdays, most Mondays, and lots of bonus content in between. Please give this video a thumbs up, share it with any friends that also suffer from the shopping affliction that many of us suffer from, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye!